Hello, ActiveSage here on the Sage channel. It is Sleep, Art, Game, and Eat. And today we're taking a look at this large exploration ship here. Now, unlike a lot of my ships from the past, this is actually, well, a ship sort of from this game's past. It is maybe not from the year 2070 or whatever future time you'd like to imagine this game is set in, but closer to the modern day era. It's a large ship mainly made out of three main sections. This sort of living area up front that I'm by right now. The middle section we flew by had sort of our generators stuck in the middle, followed by our refinery area and crafting section, followed by the engine area at the back. So sort of like the rough concepts that you get for starships nowadays. This is sort of the idea that you'd have a bunch of components held together with lightweight scaffolding, that way you don't have as much to push. Now, the engine section back here, we have our maneuvering thrusters that go up, down, left, right, you can see here, and everything here is mirrored from front to back of these engine sections and from top to bottom. And so if we look at the back here, you can see we have our nice large engines here to go us forward push. Now, unlike a lot of my ships, I actually don't have engines behind engines. Even though I know you can now toggle the damage off, I decided with this one, since it's supposed to be a slightly more modern day, aka weaker ship, why not? We'll just have the slow engines. It's supposed to be a deep space exploration ship. We don't need it to really accelerate super quick, and can just get up to speed and then drift. Now, this large section here, the first of the pressurized areas, is basically our refinery section, as I mentioned earlier. Now, if you look at the top here, we basically have our refinery areas here. Now, this ship probably wouldn't actually run into anything as it's floating through deep space to actually refine, but I figured just in case it does come across anything, in case it finds itself in a spot of bother and needs to refine some asteroids nearby that it just happens to find, it's got the equipment. It's actually got a fair amount of equipment that it probably wouldn't even need. It's actually got 4 of these on top and mirrored on the bottom 4 of them as well. Now, if we look here on the top, you can see that in between them we have a conveyor. Now, conveyors in the game don't currently work, but hopefully they'll work where a refinery automatically refines whatever it's got inside of it, and then just as if you had it attached to a assembler, it's automatically sucked out into a conveyor if there's a conveyor attached to, let's say, a storage container. So as these machines refine their materials, it'll hopefully be sucked out and stuck into these large cargo containers here, which would actually already be full of supplies in this ship's case, because it would be wanting to leave spaceport with enough supplies to repair its basic systems if it ran into a spot of bother. Now, what we do have at this point is a completely different set of conveyors here. You actually see these connecting left to right. Now, these conveyors here run along the bottom side here to connect to these cargo containers and then shoot into this section here. And I'll really quickly fly in there, and it'll become very apparent why we have those. Because just like I'm hoping refineries will automatically put out whatever they refine into storage containers, I'm hoping storage containers will automatically put out whatever they have, or at least whatever they have when needed, into an assembler. So let's say I have all these assemblers here. Their backsides are indeed connected to those conveyors we just saw on the outside of the ship. If we were to go up to these, say, hey, I'd like to build, let's say, some just metal grids. I click, tell it to build these. It would automatically at this point hopefully pull any metal iron bars that we have from those large containers into this thing and build them for me. And hopefully not just pull, or hopefully just pull what I needed, not extra. Anyway, this is just a pretty simple little area. I kept it separated from the civilian area of the ship at the front because, well, this area isn't really supposed to be used at all. While this ship is in transit, it should actually be shut down unless, you know, they run into a spot of bother. Then it would be turned on and start refining stuff. So anyway, let's now head to the civilian area at the front of the ship through another little airlock here and go on a nice little spacewalk here. So let's boop. Get that on. You can see also the gravitational field of this doesn't actually reach that far away from the area that we were just inside. Anyway, as we head towards the front of the ship, and actually let's head down here where anybody actually doing this little spacewalk to get in between these things would be going, you pass by all of these large reactors. Now, during main spaceflight, these would actually all be shut down. Basically, you'd use these to accelerate the ship up to its cruising speed, and then you shut down all of those, all the refineries, all the assemblers, everything back there, including the gravity generator, and just coast forward in space. Now, you might be saying, well, how's anything going to run? Well, recently we got solar panels, so here you go. We can see we got 2 solar panels on the top, and you get each running at 3 and 2, and then actually if we fly down to the bottom, well, we got another 2 down here which aren't currently working, but depending on where you are in space, you might want to rotate the ship in different ways to get more or less power. Anyway, let's now go on to here. You can see once again we're in a gravitational area. We'll head into this airlock. This is the only airlock actually that leads into this part of the ship. Run over here, Pop this door open, and voila, color change, we're in the civilian sort of area of the ship. Now, directly to our left and right, this is where we have basically the civilian stores. Basically, we have storage closets where you'd probably have your little spacesuits in here and probably one or two in here. That way, if anybody needed to go to the other sections of the ship, they could. But then the rest of these would probably just be filled with medical and foodstuffs and maybe a few weapons, but unlikely considering this is meant to be just slightly in our future, so I doubt we'd really be worrying too much about weapons. But maybe a tranquilizer gun or something in one of these. But basically, if these supplies ran out, people would then, of course, have to do a nice little spacewalk through this over to those large storage containers that we were flying by just a little bits ago. So they'd have to come out here and give a fly all the way down here and unload some extra food that was in storage in these cargo containers. Luckily, I doubt they would have to do that frequently. If ever, the ship would probably be planning its trips to wherever it is going pretty carefully. Anyway, now let's keep touring the civilian area here, and you'll find that after these doors, let's actually just close these really quickly, and this door too, because I just feel like they need to be closed. We'll come across these two doors. Now, unlike the other ones, these are symmetrical in rooms, but not on purpose exactly. This one, we have our nice little respawning bay, which currently in the game you'd respawn to a nice green, but in the sort of role-playing world I'm sort of imagining this would just sort of be a medical system to help heal you up, and cryopods, just in case you ended up in such a spot of bother you could not survive. By the way, these are my custom models. If you would like to get your hands on them, there is a link in the description and an annotation on the screen to go see a video that shows you a bit more about them, and also to go download them. Please use the manual install. The automated install is a bit funky with my things. If you do manual, it should work. By the way, over here we have some more of my custom models. This is basically the medical room where you would be laying down in these beds recovering. Yes, I know these are near the ground. I'm working on improving those as well. Thank you for your feedback. And yeah, so this is just where you'd recover. I doubt this would ever be used. The ship's not meant to have a huge crew. I think this might actually be overkill, but I felt like just having two respawn rooms would be a bit silly. Anyway, as we carry down now to the left and right, once again, these rooms will be the same. These are basically the civilian quarters. So you got your nice little work desk. You got your view through the side of the ship. We actually have the metal grate on the outside. It's keeping with the sort of semi-modern day idea of these sort of metal, I don't know, frameworks around these ships. And I actually quite like the idea of looking through that and through a window. And so yeah, each of these rooms, nice little sort of darkish blue light. That way, if let's close this door, that way it seems a bit more sealed off. You could imagine laying in here relaxing. Maybe you'd have a holographic display up here watching a movie while you lay in bed and have it set the time out, or maybe you just have the projector in there doing its job. Either way, I thought this was a nice little setup, and most of the rooms on this ship, with the exception of the officer rooms, are just like that. And by the way, over here is just the mirrored image of that, so nothing special over there. Anyway, as we carry down, these are all just more sleeping rooms, until you get to this room here, these big double doors. Now, this basically leads to the recreational area. Now, one of them, like this one, would probably, let's say, be the recreational area where you have a projector or whatnot to keep the crew entertained, maybe a ping pong table that you could fold or unfold into the wall, something like that. And then the one over here would probably be a mess hall mixture of, well, mess hall and then maybe another recreational room. Basically, you could set these up however you'd like. I don't have any custom models to fill those out currently, unfortunately. Now we've come to these doors here, and these are the officer chambers. So if we pop both these open, you can see that they're slightly bigger than the other ones, whereas the other ones were basically 2x2. These are 2x3. Much larger area for the officers. I don't really have anything to really fill it in yet, but I don't know. Maybe I'll come up with something later. I'm thinking maybe a bookshelf would actually do well for an officer. Even though we're in space, it would be interesting. Anyway, the same relative setup. His bed is actually at a different orientation. That's not intentional. I think I'll switch it back around to the way the other ones are. But anyway, he's got a slightly nicer view with the 3 windows. Let's now carry on, by the way, mirrored over here, just the same. And now let's carry on to this final door of the ship, which is the bridge. So pop this door open. Voila, we have our bridge. We have our nice big control panel. I actually currently just have these here basically as placeholders. I'd like to make some custom models for it to be more advanced sort of control panels and stuff, and maybe even stick them down at the ground a little bit. But, you know, it gets the point across, a nice big bridge with a very, very nice view. It's an exploration ship. You're supposed to have a decent view, at least out of one of the windows. And By the way, here's your view while you're controlling it. Again, it's a pretty long ship. You can't actually get the camera behind it unless you bump into some stuff and squeeze the camera all the way down there. But yeah, it's pretty nice. Now, really quickly, I'm going to show you basically what it would be like to actually pilot it out. So let's start accelerating, and you see the speed at the bottom right there is very, very slowly accelerating. Like I said, more modern day. Ship's not going to be a super fast sort of thing. It's just going to get up to speed on the coast. So really quickly, I'm going to cut ahead till it's at speed. Alrighty, and you see we've covered a fair amount of distance while getting up to speed. Now I like the idea of being around, let's say, 90 meters per second. And that's just because this game currently has a limit of 104. So there we go, inertial dampers off, well, we're going. Now, of course, we're still producing a fair amount of energy. The uranium in those reactors would start running down. So at this point, once you're up to speed, once you're sure everything's going pretty well, you want to pop open your console here, find all these assemblers and basically shut them off. Do the same for your refineries, and also do the same for any spare gravity generators. There's only 2 gravity generators on the ship, so you'd be doing the same for the singular gravity generator in the back for the refining area. It could be advisable also shut off the gyroscopes, which are in the engine compartments away at the back, but I think those might be alright. Let me really quickly just go through and shut off everything we don't need. So there we go, everything's shut down and the ship is still functional because those solar panels give us just enough power to basically keep our, well, all the basic systems running. So life support, still in the green, doors, still in the green. Basically everything you need to just carry on is still there. Now if we were to fly outside the ship, let's get through these doors and actually come down here. I'm going to turn on my jetpacks and we're going to make sure our inertial dampeners are indeed off. There we go. As we fly out, you can see all the reactors are now offline, and the ship is only being powered by its solar panels. Now, to do this, I've shut down all the reactors to prove that the solar panels are the only thing powering us. I've shut down all the refineries, all the assemblers, and actually shut down the engines. The gyroscopes inside these parts back here are still functional, but of course they're not really needed, so you could shut them down to save on power, but not really any point to be exact. So here we go. Nice big ship completely powered by solars. Not really powering anything in specific besides lights and 1 gravity generator way up there, but I think it does the trick. I would like, when I'm going through those control panel things and shutting systems off, to see just how much energy a, let's say, thruster takes, because currently when you mouse over a thruster in the control panel it doesn't actually tell you, which is a bit of a, well, troublesome thing if you're trying to be cautious on your energy management, and of course going through and shutting those off individually takes an age. So once again, I'm wishing for the grouping system, but they are working on something for that. Anyway, this is the ship. It should be out on the Steam Workshop at some point in the near future if you'd like to download it and poke about yourself. And yeah, it's a fair amount of fun. I like it a lot, actually, even though if it's pretty simplistic. I like the idea of building with these sort of, I don't know, just metal girdery things a lot. Yeah, I like it a lot. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.